What's going on, Wolfpack Nation? Thank you so much again for tuning back in here for part two of our interview with former NC State pitcher Reid Johnston. So, again, if you haven't checked out part one yet, make sure to go check that out. As again, where we talked about, obviously, his decision of going pro versus coming back to NC State. We talked about his upcoming time with Cleveland here, and also talked about Coach Elliott Avon, obviously, the man we all love. So, but jumping into part two here again, so we're going to be talking about this year's team a little bit. So we had on Sam Highfield and Chris Villeman. I think that were two of the big heads of the NC State bullpen last year. Obviously with you on it, but also with other guys like Matt Willitson. But I mean, so tell us a little bit about those guys. Is there obviously I think that we all know how good Sam is. Obviously with what he did against Vanderbilt, being the highlight in the College World Series, and then we all know what he can do hitting the ball as well. Obviously with the second game against Vanderbilt. But is there anything that maybe State fans may need to keep an eye on with Sam, but then also to kind of talk a little bit about some of these other pitchers as well that maybe State fans haven't really heard a lot of as well.
Yeah, I mean you watch Sam and Matt Willitson and Chris Villeman pitch last year, and you're like, wow, those guys are like they got to be fourth or fifth year guys, and then you look back and they played half of the
Yeah.
year their freshman year, and then a full season last year, and it's remarkable to see what
Hmm.
those three guys did with. I'm not gonna say as little experience as they've had, but they haven't had a ton, and just to see what they could do on the mound, mentally and physically is just. I mean, it's got to be exciting for this upcoming year. You got those three guys, leading you on the mound, and then you got guys like Garrett Payne who pitched 8 innings all year and then came into the College World Series through 4 or 5 innings, gave up 1 or 2 runs. It's like, wow, throw another one in there. And
Hmm.
I mean, just the young talent
Yeah.
that was there last year. They're going to be a year older this year. Another year of experience, and it'd be exciting to watch them on the mound. Plus the
Hmm.
guys that they brought in too,
And
and I oh
go
I
ahead.
mean just talking about the guys they brought in. I haven't been around the team much, but just hearing about the new arms that they have in is it's exciting. I mean, I know there's some junior college guys that can throw the ball. There's some freshmen that can throw the ball, and they'll I think they'll be just fine on the pitching
Hmm.
standpoint this year.
Yeah, no, I think definitely looking at this year's team, that definitely the bullpen's not going to be an issue for concern. Obviously, even bringing back an experienced guy like David Harrison as well. But looking at these guys
Yeah,
as well, again, there's a lot of new names, a lot of young names, and so one of the things too that I think that, again, that we kind of talked about that would be a worry versus not be a worry is that obviously we lost a good amount of names that were a part of our batting order that, I mean, pretty much hit. It was pretty much the same batting order for most of the entire season. Obviously, with the Johnny Butlers, the Terrell Tatum's, the
yeah,
Votek Menseeks, and those guys. And so losing those guys definitely is it's sad to see them go for sure. But obviously getting guys back like the JT Jarrett's, the Devontae Browns. But even adding in like the new guys like the Josh Hoods and all these guys again, it's kind of one of those things that from where I'm sitting, it's kind of like if everything goes as is expected, because I mean, like a guy like Josh Hood who came from the University of Penn and did very well at the University of Penn, and because at the end of the day, the baseball is coming the same way whether you're at the University of Penn or at the NC State. So if you're hitting 340 or 320 whatever at University of Penn, you feel good that he's going to be able to switch that to NC State,
yeah,
hitting that well as well. So I mean, it's it leads you to be optimistic. And also, too, even like talking about the Duke exhibition. I mean, putting up 14 runs against a Duke team that just won the ACC championship over us. I mean, it's like, okay. I mean, not necessarily that kind of takes out all concern from the batting side, but I mean, it's like, okay. I mean, there's a room for optimism there.
yeah. Well, I mean, you lose 7 guys. Well, that leaves 7 positions open, and at all through practice scrimmages, there's two, three deep at every position. So it's just a battle between the players at practice, and I think that helps more than anything because they're fighting for a spot. They know there's 7 lineup spots open, and it brings the best out of everybody because you want to be your best. You're gonna practice hard because you have to beat somebody out. So in the end, it does suck to lose 7 guys out of a lineup, but I think those there's a lot of
Sure.
competition going on now to fill those spots, and I think they'll fill them with some good players.
Hmm.
Yeah, Reed, just I know obviously you weren't there this fall, but who we mentioned Sam and Chris, and from a batting perspective, I know all those guys we lost. Who would you say, I guess, from a pitching perspective and a hitting perspective, that's still there that you played with? Obviously, you don't know the new guys. Who could make a huge impact on this 2022 season?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that comes to my head that not many people probably think of would be Kane Silver. I mean, this is his 4th year here. He pitched a lot of innings his first and second year, I think. Last year he was kind of banged up, so he didn't get much playing time. But that guy has more experience than anybody on that team in the pitching staff. Just kind of what he's been through. 5th year senior, and he's a guy that can kind of do it all. I mean, he can start when he needs to. He can come out of the bullpen if he's needed to, and I think he's overlooked a lot, but I think he's a great weapon because he's not going to come in there and blow up by anybody, but he's a left-hander that has
Hmm.
10,000 pitches. He throws everything, so you know I think he can be effective. And from the hitting standpoint, I'd say Noah Souls. I mean, he had, I don't know, 15 or 20 at bats that COVID year. He had some good at bats, really good at bats, and then last year he didn't get much playing time just because of the situation in the outfield. But he's kind of sat behind those guys for 2 years and seen what they do and kind of their routine. And obviously he's a great player with a great skill set, and I think at any minute he can kind of bust open and become potentially one of the hottest hitters on that team. I mean, that guy has all the tools, and I think he's kind of a sleeper. So I'd look
Hmm.
for Noah Souls and Kane Silver to kind of you know make something happen for the team this year.
I love it. Love it. And obviously too, one of the things I want to mention as well is that obviously you mentioned Kane Silver, who actually came from Spartanburg Methodist College, who transferred in. One of the things that I
Hmm.
love, and I've definitely noticed with NC State, is you hear a lot of times, obviously players transferring in, which is common. Obviously this year had a lot of guys transfer in, but you don't typically hear a lot of players transferring out typically, and I think that says two things.
Hmm.
First of all, I think that speaks a lot to the environment that Coach Avon and his staff have built there, and how all
Yeah.
players want to be a part of it. But also too, on top of it, I think that part of it probably too is that, I mean, the ACC right now is as competitive as it's ever been. I mean, like they're pretty much every single weekend, every single team has at least a solid lineup that can easily win a game or two of a 3 game series. But then even at the top,
Hmm.
I mean, like looking at the top 25, you see names like Georgia Tech, obviously Duke, won a C title last year. Carolina, you're always going to know is going to be in the fold. But even like the guys like Notre Dame, Virginia Tech, they're always teams that have solid teams. And like Florida State, they just moved on from a Hall of Fame head coach, and yet they're still going to be projected a top 10, top 15 team in the country. So,
Hmm.
to kind of talk a little bit in terms of, I mean, how much the competition that ECC has developed, and also how enticing it is from a player perspective that every single weekend you're competing against some of the best baseball players in the country.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of watched it right in front of my, unfold in front of my eyes the last 4 years. I mean, that first year I played in the ACC,
Hmm.
I kind of felt like it was two halves. There was a top half and a bottom half. Regarding kind of the competitiveness of the teams, and then over the last 2 or 3 years, especially this year, I mean, it seems like there might be one or two teams that are above everybody, but I mean, it basically feels like a level playing field. I mean, like, a team like Notre Dame that, my freshman year, I didn't think, they were historically very good. And then, these last 2 years,
Yeah,
they come out of nowhere and they're, almost a national seed. And it's just says something about the
yeah,
conference, obviously. And then, I think that helps, you know, obviously that helps us because, it's a competitive conference and who wouldn't want to play
right.
in it? And then, you add on a school like NC State that's
No,
historically, really good, produces, great players that go on to have, professional careers. It's got to be enticing, as a recruiting standpoint to, you know, obviously play in the ACC, but then, you see a school like NC State. I mean, it's hard to overlook that.
before we continue, I want to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, Flatlands Jessup Insurance Group, that has your whole world covered, with agents in 5 offices throughout eastern North Carolina to help you decide how much coverage you need. Offering policies for home and auto, recreational vehicles, commercial, crop, health, life, and employee benefits. They are able to combine options to find a comprehensive solution that works for you. Flatlands Jessup protects the things you love so you can spend less time worrying and more time enjoying them. Find them on Facebook and Instagram at Flatlands Jessup. You can also visit their webpage at www.flatlandsjessup.com. So please make sure to go and check them out. And go ahead, Rob.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna build off that, and I know we'll touch on this in a few minutes, but you've traveled to you probably played at every ACC school, and you've seen their facilities and their indoor facilities, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's just another thing in a year or two when we complete this the Doak upgrade. How much of an impact do you
Yeah.
think that has now with these new facilities in a year or two from now?
Yeah. I mean, it's huge. I mean, you walk into some of these facilities and I mean, it's kind of surreal. The enhancements that, all these facilities have had. I mean, we went to Clemson freshman year and it's just like, is this really a baseball facility? I mean, it was unbelievable the stuff they had. And then, you go to somewhere like, Carolina, as much as I don't like them, I mean, they got a great place over there, a great stadium. And I think, it's kind of spread out that, you know, if you want to compete in this league, you got to enhance your facilities because that has something to do with recruiting. And, I know we're going to touch on it in a minute, but, I think that ended up helping us, kind of get some upgrades at the Doak this year.
Yeah. Well, because obviously the biggest place that really stood out, I think, is when we went to the College World Series, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
state fans really kind of did the side by side comparison and compared like our facilities versus like Mississippi State and Texas and Arkansas,
Yeah.
obviously, and was like, I mean, it's like night and day. It's not
Mm-hmm.
even night and day. It's like literally like it's like Pluto and Earth. It's like not even close, you know. And so I think that first
Yeah.
of all, again, just gives a huge testament to Coach Avent and his staff. I mean, like I know Coach Hart is the, the head recruiting guy. So I mean, huge hats off to Coach Hart and these guys that they're able to get this talent, obviously, to NC State, even with the facilities that they have. But and so I mean, obviously, kind of jumping into it a little bit now. So I know that from talking with Sam and some of the other guys that you guys found out about the new upgrades during the ring ceremony for the College World Series. So what was your initial reaction when you saw the plans, and what was maybe one specific thing that stood out to you or that you liked the most, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, it was, obviously also, it was, we were so excited to see that. I mean, kind of once we got back from Omaha, it was kind of a build up. We figured that something was going to happen soon, but we didn't know when. And then the months kept passing, and it was just like, okay, if they're going to do something, like we just got back from the World Series, now's the perfect time to do it. I mean, it's got to happen. And then
You
they
got it.
showed us they showed us the video, at the ring ceremony, and we all got to be the first people to see that, which was, I think that was special because I think that team had a lot to do with it. I don't think it was just that team. Obviously the teams, in the past kind of built up to that. But, if we don't go to the World Series, does that happen? I don't know. But, I'm glad that they were able to show us that.
Hmm.
And, just looking at the guys' faces, obviously I won't ever get to play in the new Doak, but seeing the guys' faces that potentially will be there to play there was the most exciting part. And looking at seeing Coach Avent and all the coaches there, how happy they were. Just, seeing Coach Avent, I mean, that guy's worked his whole life to get something like that. And, I think it was awesome to see.
Yeah. And obviously too, the one thing which first of all, I mean, some to highlight some of the cool parts. Obviously, I know for me and a lot of state fans, it was upgrading the scoreboard first of all. Giving it a huge upgrade. Just making it look a whole lot fresher. But also too, from the player perspective, having proper facilities. And obviously upgrading the locker room. Kind of adding that cool factor. Because at the end of the day, it should be about pleasing the players first and then fans second. At the end of the day, that's how it should be. I mean, because at the end of the day, for a fan, I'll take having to order at a food truck or whatever and having no shade. But again, to watch a top 5 team every single weekend over having all this shade and having all these beautiful concessions. To watch, a top, 20 team, at the end of the day, it's we want to have the best players and the best product on the field that you can. But, looking at it kind of from the perspective, I mean, from a player side is, I mean, like, looking at, like, obviously the training facilities, but then the locker room, was there, like, one point from a player side that kind of stood out to you, like, yeah, I mean, that's needed, or like, thank goodness that's finally getting changed? Like, one part of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the locker room because I think the funnest times you have at the baseball field is in the locker room. You got all the guys in there, throwing hacky sacks around, just you know joking around with each other, and all the fun happens in the locker room. So I think that the locker room really stood out to me, and then the kind of the enhancements down the right field, with the new player facility with the batting cage, weight room, all that's important because that just goes into the player development,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of to have everything right there, and a better version of everything would just I think adds up, and it's good to see.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it easy with
Absolutely.
everything at the Doak instead of scooting around campus to go lift it to the WB or at Reynolds and then go to class, and just one spot will be perfect for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot less parking tickets for
Yeah.
everybody, I think.
Yeah, that's right.
So obviously going to the end here, Reed. One of the things I wanted to touch on is we talked a little bit about Coach Hart here, and because I think that this kind of something we haven't really talked about much with some of the other players. I wanted to talk with you since you've been there for 4 years and obviously been around Coach Hart for some time, and I'm sure was recruited by him and all that jazz. And you know, I think it's very evident the fact that Coach Hart has been here for so long, and combined with how amazing of a job he's done with hitters, how amazing of a job he's done developing hitters, but also to how amazing of a job he's done in recruiting trail. I mean, literally, he is one of the top assistant coaches in the country. So the fact that he still is here as the assistant coach because there's no way he hasn't gotten calls and offers for head coaching positions. There's just no way. But I mean,
Yeah.
it just leads to that. I mean, I think that it really is just setting up because I mean, again, unfortunately, it's if it just like you said, everybody's got to hang up their cleats at some point. Everybody's going to hang up their clipboard at some point. And obviously, at some point, Coach Avent's got to retire. Even though we don't want it to be, but it's just setting up so beautifully that Coach Hart, would be the main option to take over. And I mean, I'm sure that's something that him and Coach Avent have talked about, saying, hey, I'm going to be here for so many more years, and then after that, you'll take over, and then we won't even skip a beat. You know what I mean? So, I mean, is that kind of the impression you've gotten as well from the player's perspective? I know obviously you probably can't share too much internal information, obviously, but I mean, from a fan's perspective, I think that's what we all want. And because also, too, I think it would mean the most to Coach Avent for Coach Hart to take over. But also, too, it's just the smartest thing, it seems like. It's the smartest situation. It's the only one that really makes sense, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, I can, probably speak on behalf of most of the players that have come before me or, whatever. But, I think if there's anybody that deserves the next head coach, coaching job at NC State, it's got to be Chris Hart. I mean, I think he's been there 16 years, all of them. Obviously with Coach Avent. I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
Coach Avent knows, NC State baseball, at the top level, then Coach Hart's right under him, and he's been there learning under Coach Avent for that long, and just what he does for the program. I mean, he does more than anybody knows because he's kind of a quiet guy. He kind of goes unnoticed, but just what he does and his baseball
Mm-hmm.
knowledge and his ability to recruit and develop players is unheard of. And obviously he got that assistant coach of the year award, so that obviously says something about him, that the outsiders are seeing how good of a coach he is. And I just think that it makes too much sense to have him as the next head coach. I mean, he definitely deserves it, and he definitely has the ability to keep things going in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that would just be a seamless transition down the road too.
Mm-hmm.
You won't
Mm-hmm.
lose recruits. You won't lose. Yeah, it would just be seamless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it makes
And
too much sense
and
if you think about it.
Yeah.
yeah. Now, the only thing that I haven't seen from Coach Hart, which I hope that Avon's kind of taught, will have taught him by the time Avon retires, is make sure that Coach Hart's got a wicked spin move down. I think that's some from Coach Avon's arsenal that you want to make sure Coach Hart has. But hey, I've seen all too many times Coach Hart get in umpires' faces, and then Elliot Avon, Mr. 5, 10, 11 himself, throwing Coach Hart out of the way to get in himself, like it's, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the only thing,
No,
but
I
I
don't.
mean, so
I don't
I
think.
have no doubts in it. So,
I don't think you're going to see the spin move from Coach Hart. You might see something else, but I don't think that's in his personality to pull that one out.
I gotcha. Awesome, Reid. Well, again, first of all, I want to say thank you so much again for joining us, but also to obviously best of luck. Definitely, with spring training here, and again, no doubt that every single State fan here, and all across the country is cheering for you, and even if they're, even if they cheer for a rival team of Cleveland. I'm sure that there's like a 1% inside of them that pulls for you, no matter what. So, but best of luck to you here, and we're cheering for you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you all for your support, and I think I have a good thing going with this podcast. I hope y'all can keep it up. I enjoy listening to what past episodes, so I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on.
Yeah, best of luck,
Appreciate
Reid,
your
and
time.
best of luck, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll be in touch and we'll be following you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
Awesome.
we'll see you
Thank
at the new Doak one day.
Yeah, I plan
No,
to be
definitely
there.
gotta have you back.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much again for tuning in. Really do appreciate everybody, and again, definitely hope that you have enjoyed this series here. Kind of, talking to some past Pac-9 players, but also to kind of getting really excited about the potential of what this upcoming 2022 season has for us here. But if you haven't already, make sure to again hit that subscribe button. Again, it's free to do, and also to make sure that you don't miss out on any of our new content. And also to give this video a like, as it helps us get this video in front of more NC State fans' eyes. And also give us a follow, Tuffy Talk Now on Twitter, Instagram. And make sure, too, if you haven't already gone to follow Reid, make sure to go check him out on all social media as well and give him a follow as well, and to keep in touch with them. But anyway, thank you all so much again. And, hey, as always, go back, y'all. We'll see y'all soon.